Okay. Alrighty. Are we ready, my gals?
Mm-hmm. Ready.
Alrighty. Hello. We are here at Sun Sounds of Arizona. Oh, this is me.
Supposed to be me.
Oops. Yeah, go for it, Don Tucker.
Hello. We are here at Sun Sounds of Arizona in Flagstaff, Arizona, and welcome to episode 6 of Untamed Shrews, Women Talk Theater. I'm Dawn.
I'm Becki.
And I'm Hannah, and welcome to today's episode. I am thrilled to say we are joined today by one of my very best friends, Cadence Lamb, an actor, singer, dancer, and songwriter who you may have seen on the Flagstaff stage over the last few years. She wrote our adorable and extremely catchy theme song, and she will be playing Hamlet, Theseus, and Oberon in our upcoming summer season.
Yay! We're so happy to have you here, Cadence.
Thanks,
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm so excited to be here with my favorite ladies. I've been listening every month and I've loved it so much.
Aww.
Yeah, so I'm Cadence. I got my BFA in acting at Illinois Wesleyan, a minor in dance and psychology. We're not going to talk about that probably.
We might.
We might. I've been taking dance my whole life. I've choreographed professionally across the nation. And I've also been writing songs since I was 6, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll remind me to tell you about the first song I wrote.
Okay.
Yes,
It was
please.
hysterical. I learned first from my mom. She was a singer, actor, dancer as well. So she was my first teacher for all of those things. And yeah, I'm so happy I found Flag Shakes through Dawn, who was my drama teacher in high school.
Just the funniest story.
Yeah, so Dawn was definitely my first Shakespeare teacher.
Wow. It makes me feel so old when you say that.
And I just can't, it doesn't make any sense to me because like Cadence and I are the same age and I just would never think of us like so different that you could have been my teacher. Like
It really freaks me out when I
it's
think
so
about it too.
strange.
It's kind of crazy, but you were a senior when I taught
exactly,
you. So it's not
And
like,
you were young. You were a young teacher.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
a young teacher. It wasn't like, you know, you were in 8th grade.
Right.
At least. Whew. But you have graduated college and then been working for years. It is kind of crazy to think about. So,
Yeah.
well, now I really want to hear about this first song
Yes.
that you
Song?
wrote. So
Okay.
please tell us about the first song you wrote.
So this may not be the first song because I have found in really old journals pieces of paper in which my mom wrote down before I could even write just little things, and she would write down the chords for me. Oh my goodness, so cute. They're completely nonsensical,
I'm sure.
right? Like they make absolutely no sense. But when I was 6, there was a competition, a national competition that my school was involved in called the Reflections Competition. And you could submit any type of art, and songs were one of them. But there was a theme every year. So this theme was, I hold in my hand, ... There were a lot of like ellipses. I know.
Huh.
So I wrote this song. I kind of cheated and I said, I hold in my hand some clay. And then I had the clay turn to fur so that people would stop poaching animals. I turned it into suckers so that people would stop smoking cigarettes. Food for the hungry. Like, basically what a 6-year-old thinks all the problems are of the world
Yeah.
is what I wrote this little
Poaching
song about.
Aw.
And then the next...
Big heart.
I know. It's so sweet.
Yeah, I also like kind of had a lisp back then, so it was just really cute.
Oh, I
Aw.
didn't know you had a lisp.
Yeah, I had like a little bubble in my mouth. Yeah. The next year I wrote a song about getting my hair brushed. So
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Cute. Okay, so you have been writing forever. I want to know how you wrote our song because I literally was like, okay, Cadence, I think I called it a boop to boop.
Yeah. That's exactly
I was
what
like,
you
I
said.
need it about this long, and I was like, do 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 do, or like whatever. I like specify the amount of seconds, not with actual seconds.
Yeah.
And was like, I want it to be like that. But it gave you absolutely nothing. So where did you? It's so fun. It's like
I'm so glad you
Renaissance
like it.
meets hip hop.
That is, I mean,
It's
that's
silly.
It's a real bop.
Thanks, you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I thought. Was I wanted to have kind of a Renaissance-y, period-esque flair to it, to bring in, you know, what people think when they think Shakespeare. I'm sure I'm actually wrong historically. Like, I didn't do the research, but but I also wanted it to be modern and fun. So I listened to a lot of that kind of era, and I got the idea of, I just could hear those scales, you know what I mean? So then I played around on the piano and found the melody, and then I knew I wanted it in like a harpsichord kind of vibe, and then with a beat to it. So that's basically it, because I knew I wanted it to be the mesh that you guys are working on here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I used the phrase raucous. I was like, I want us to be raucous and untamed. That's what we got. Fun. Awesome. Well, tell us maybe a little bit more about like your actual songwriting more day to day, like all the stuff that you've worked on that's not just our little ditty.
Yeah. Yeah, I've realized that songwriting for me is kind of twofold in terms of its purpose. And it started out purely as just a way to process things, you know? It's kind of like my version of journaling. I remember the first time I ever fully felt that, I wrote some song about a boy when I was 12,
Yeah.
right? It's like basically that song the Jonas Brothers do, Pushing Me Away. Does anyone know that one?
No.
Yes.
I
of
basically wrote
course.
that song again. It wasn't great, but when I finished the song, I remember the moment I finished it just feeling like, oh, I feel great now. Like that problem is, I've worked through that, which as a 12-year-old was like, is much easier to do because the problem was way less complicated than my problems now, you know, as an adult. But I still feel that, you know, it's a good way to process through something, understand my feelings. And then also to share those is a whole nother thing. Like sharing with someone a song I wrote is like a very vulnerable exercise in that, and in like just connection with another person, because all my songs are like really angsty and you know. But then the other side to it is just the craft of songwriting. I've been trying to do that more, so that I'm writing more than just when I feel like I need to write, you know. So sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know what? I haven't written a fun song on the ukulele. I want to write a fun one on the ukulele. And so I, you know, try to challenge myself by just writing the song instead of having it come from an experience. But my favorite way to write is definitely from an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Cadence, could you tell us a little bit more about what your process is like for when you're preparing for a role such as Hamlet or Theseus and Oberon, or kind of any time you're starting to work on a new production?
Oh, totally. That's a great question, because it's different every single show. I don't know if that's the case for you guys. Some things are the same, especially for Shakespeare. So I'll write out all of my lines, and then I'll write out the paraphrase for all of them, and then I'll scan them in my script, and I'll write out my cues. And then I'll go through. I memorize a whole bunch of different ways. I listen to my lines. I look over them. I practice with someone else. I say them out loud, of course. But in terms of finding the character, it really varies. Sometimes I journal as my character. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys had these like in college, but I've got various kind of worksheets that just have various questions about your character, and
Like
I like
the Hagen, or
yeah, exactly. So I've got a couple of different versions of that. My favorite are the abstract ones, though, the ones that are like, what type of animal is this character, what type of texture, what color, you know. I don't know why, but the thinking about a character abstractly really works for me. So I typically do those. I've also done, once I played Aunt Spiker in a version of James and the Giant Peach, and I kept getting the note, and this is a note I get a lot, that I smile too much. It's because both I have a lot of mouth tension and because I like to be nice. You know what I mean? Like, which is great in normal life, but it's awful when you're trying to become another.
Spiker.
Yeah, exactly. And I play like I've played a lot of evil characters because I'm like 5'10". You know what I mean? That just happens. So I was getting that note a lot. And I decided a way to deal with it was to make Aunt Spiker obsessed with not getting wrinkles. And so she just like wouldn't move her face much. And in order to really get into that, I researched skincare, which turned out great because then I got my own skincare routine off of it. But I got like really excited about it, but so sometimes I'll do something weird like that, where I just feel like, my character would know exactly what vitamin C serum and retinol is doing to her face, and I've heard it said those are secrets that you have, as your character. I think those go a long way for me because they're kind of like an endless bucket to pull from. And I
it can
like
help
researching.
you justify some of those like problem areas sometimes.
True.
Like if you have something within your character that like you either just don't identify with or understand, like, Hannah would be like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense to me. But then if you come up with something like that, like the skincare thing, then it's like, oh, I've come up with a solution for myself as an actor of how to solve that problem. Because, normal Hannah or Cadence or Dawn or Becki would be like, oh, well, like I would never have a problem with that, or that wouldn't be something I would need. But if you find yourself a way to like jump into it, then even if it's silly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of acting is you have to, we're using ourselves and you have to know when something's going to work for you and when something's not. And I knew just thinking, don't smile, Cadence, was not going to work for me. So I had to come up with something creative and something else I could think about and work with. Yeah.
How about for Hamlet specifically? Have you discovered anything super exciting so far? Obviously, Hamlet's Hamlet, so like, wow.
Oh my God.
There's probably so much to just mine out of there. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'll keep it a little vague just because we're so early in the process.
Just for those humans out there, we haven't even begun rehearsals. So we literally start in like 4 or 5 days. So we're close, but we haven't actually begun.
Yeah.
But by the time people are listening, we'll be almost getting ready for opening.
You're right.
Oh my God.
Because this will come out in a month.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
When you hear this podcast, you can buy your ticket.
Marketing plug. Come see Hamlet and A Midsummer Night's Dream the 2 weekends after the 4th of July at the Fort Tuttle Amphitheater. Okay, back to regularly scheduled programming.
Marketing director, go.
We haven't even built like a ticket link yet, so don't quote us.
But by the time this podcast comes out, we better have a ticket link.
You're right.
That's on me. So,
Anywho's, back to Hamlet.
yeah. What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
One of my feeling is a great question. Because
Overwhelmed.
so much. I'm feeling so much. I'm ecstatic, right? Like, of course, this is a dream role that, especially as a woman, is very hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if I had never gotten to play this role in my whole life. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it's happening now is truly a dream come true. And because of that, both incredibly exciting and incredibly daunting, because everyone knows this role so well and
could probably quote half of it. Yeah.
Like even I know people that the moment I tell them I do Shakespeare, they're like, oh yeah, to be or not to be. And I'm like, yeah, nice.
Yeah, that
one. So everyone knows some of these lines. So it's a lot of pressure, but you kind of have to shove away the imposter syndrome because we know that just doesn't help. But at the same time, like feeling daunted and the pressure, I also want to like run a mile. You know what I mean? I'm just like so excited to just like
do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so much to work with. Some aspects of Hamlet I'm most excited to explore are Am I allowed to cuss?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It is called Untamed Shrews.
We're untamed,
We're
around
untamed
here.
here.
Oh my god. So the whole aspect of Hamlet that he just does not give a single fuck
Yeah.
what people think about him, I love that. And that's something I'm always trying to have in my own life. And just like that type of being unhinged, you know. And then there's the whole question, like, how mad is Hamlet, right? I don't even know if we want to get into that, but to me, there's definitely just you know, like, fuck you to the king and to Polonius, and just a very vagrant, all of this shit has happened to me, and I'm gonna deal with it how I will. And
He just doesn't care anymore.
yeah, and he's almost alone in that. So yeah,
I've always felt like he's situationally crazy.
Yes.
And that's what his line, you know, I am but mad northwest. When the wind is southerly, I can tell a hawk from a handsaw.
Yeah.
I've always felt like what that really meant was like, of course, these circumstances are driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, when have we not been in who has not been in a situation in their life that has made them behave in a way that they were later like, ooh, that was not
An
not
overreaction on
normal.
my part.
Yeah, like that was an overreaction, or like I would never have done, said, whatever,
Yeah.
that under like normal emotional circumstance. And I would say like not only the death of your father, but then encountering the actual ghost of your father and finding out that he's in eternal torture
Yeah.
would drive, and that your uncle who married your mother is the one who killed him, would drive anyone out of their mind.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where Hamlet is. He seems to really pull it together when he needs to, and then other times he's like, I can't, like when I'm in the presence of Claudius, when I'm in the presence of my mom, like I can't keep my shit together.
Yeah.
Because this is literally driving me out of my
Yes.
mind. I'd go crazy.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And at the same time, he's so smart
Yes.
and funny. So like
So snarky.
yes,
Insanely witty.
His insults are funny.
Yeah.
They're so good. They're so good. I was explaining them to one of my friends that like never reads Shakespeare at all, and I was just saying them in like layman's terms, and she was dying because his comebacks are so good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Great character.
So you're playing Hamlet. You're also playing Theseus and Oberon.
I love being a king.
Yeah, love being a king. So we should chat a little bit about gender bending in Shakespeare. Just for those out there, Cadence also just played both Viola and Sebastian in our production of Twelfth Night. So yes, she did speak to herself on stage. But we would love to chat. I think all of us have probably played a gender bent character.
Becki
Which
is also playing gender bent characters in the upcoming shows.
I am playing a female in these shows, but that's okay. I never get to play girls. So let's chat a little bit about gender bending, specifically in Shakespeare, but I think across it. I think that's something that Flag Shakes does without pause. I mean, we gender bend all the time, but for some people, this is not necessarily like a normal thing. So what do you think? Do you have fun doing it? What do you find it more difficult? Let's just chat about it. I personally love it. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, I definitely love it. Dawn, I think it was either you or Christine that said something so pivotal to me when I did our Romeo and Juliet way back in the day. This is my first experience with Flag Shakes. It was also my first professional gig, which was thrilling. And I was cast as Benvolio and Friar Lawrence. And at first I was like, oh, there's been a mistake. Like I was like, okay, well, they wrote up the contract wrong or something, you know. But then either you or Christine said, no, you were right for the part, and that's why you got it. It's just you as a person fit the role better than anyone else. And I've just took that with me, and I've heard Christine say when we did the gender swapped Tempest, she said something similar, which was just, I don't think we need to overthink the gender of this that much. I think it only comes into play historically, you know, just the fact that, sure, in this time period, Hamlet would have had to have been a man because of the power he possesses. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's really interesting because Christine is totally right, and she's brilliant on these issues. And I remember talking to her about that Tempest, and her just saying, like, I'm not going to do a director's note or intro this. Like, I'm not going to talk about why I gender swapped the cast. It doesn't matter that I gender swapped the cast. Right. I just did it. And I really loved that. I thought it was quite brilliant. It really just gave more women opportunities in that show. Because if you do it the way it's written, there's one female part. Yeah. And when you're trying to balance out a season, because our goal is always to do 50-50 at least, when you're trying to balance out a season and you can take a whole play and flip it and give that many more roles to women than exist in a normal Shakespeare play, then great. But I think since then we've even expanded. And just like you said, why wouldn't you cast the best actor for the role? Why would it matter what their gender is? And because Shakespeare isn't alive to tell us differently, we don't have to pay any attention. We've had trouble with other playwrights, and I think it really is troubling, especially in this era where we're really starting to discover that people don't feel binary about, like, they don't feel specific about gender. Not everyone is like, I'm this gender, I'm this gender. Yeah. And not everyone identifies with whatever they were assigned gender-wise at birth. So then it's like, then who is even determining if it's a male actor auditioning or a female actor auditioning? True. Because gets really tricky. And I don't think it's for us to decide. And I don't think, so I think that just looking at which roles people are interested in and looking at which role they'll play the best is the only way to go. But Hamlet, historically, has been played by women a lot. Yeah. Sarah Bernhardt kind of turned that around at the turn of the century. And unfortunately, she just got in the reviews, she just got slammed, not for her performance, but for not being a man. And basically that was all the reviews spent their time doing. What did it mean that she was a woman? What would it have meant if if this role had been played by a man? What would have the production looked like? But someone had to make that breakthrough so that later on women could play it and really be evaluated on their performance, not on their performance as a woman playing Hamlet. But we suspend our disbelief for everything. We know these two characters aren't brothers. They're not lovers. They're not Hamlet. We know so many things about the characters aren't true. That guy didn't just die. We know those things. So why can't we suspend our disbelief as far as gender?
Also, sometimes the actual gender of because obviously I totally understand if the gender is something pivotal to the character, obviously that makes sense. If something around the story involves specifically gender, great.
You can't change Tamara in Titus because she has to have a baby.
Exactly. But for example, all of the roles that I've played that were gender bent, I didn't play them as men. No. I just played them as a human and with long hair and curves. I wasn't we were okay, we need to bind Hannah and put her hair up and under a hat and really try to. That's crazy to me. I'm just let. I played Camillo. It doesn't matter if Camillo's a male. No. Camillo's just the right hand guy. Gives just that person who's there to it just needs to be. It needs to be who that person is. To me, when we at least at Flag Shakes, when we gender bend, we never change pronouns. We always just put the human on the stage how they present, and that's fine. We're not gonna with Viola and Sebastian. We left your hair down. We didn't try to pretend that you weren't a woman, and that's gonna be the same for Hamlet. You're just gonna be Cadence as Hamlet. Yeah. And I think that makes, at least for me, that makes more sense. It's tough for me when people try to start putting beards on people and bind. I'd love to hear this story. I didn't know that you've actually ever been pants rolls to the max.
Multiple times, you guys. Wow. Multiple times. I won't name where.
Of course, yeah.
I'm shocked.
I like Cadence.
It's Untamed. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. To me, it's mostly a bummer because I think that speaks to how the production views the intelligence of their audience. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
do we need to yeah, it's exactly what you were saying. The audience knows that I'm a woman. Even these situations in which I've been bound or like had facial hair put on me, I'm still clearly a woman.
Yes.
Like, and in a lot of them too, I was wearing pants in which it's like, honestly, with this ass, like there is no hiding that I'm a lady.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just kind of a bummer that, and I was made uncomfortable. I mean, as an actor, you're unfortunately part of the game is to just no matter what, like do your job, right? But I went out there knowing I was confusing for the audience.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been as confusing. Let's say they wanted to play me as a trans person or, you know, somewhere along that spectrum, then great. There's a purpose to it. That's what I was appearing as, you know, but no, they were trying to force me into looking like a man. I think just purely for the look on stage. These were like directors and choreographers that were very into the overall aesthetic and things matching.
Cohesiveness, yeah.
And so because they didn't have enough male dancers or whatnot, you know, I had to step in and they for sure bound me, even though I still clearly was a woman.
And did you dance like a male role, or did you like, I'm just curious if you like were still doing like female dance moves, or was it like, I know that sounds silly, but like, were you still dancing?
Like the lead or the follow?
Yeah. Were you like in a partner dance situation? Like, was it still pretty clear that you were a woman in the way you were dancing?
For those, no, I was dancing as a man.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of arbitrary, but
Yeah. In one of them I was partner dancing and I was the lead.
oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's more confusing than helpful for an audience and for the actor, because I had to try and be like, okay, am I a man here? Or like, yeah, very confusing. But Becki, you're playing Horatio this summer. Have you gendered it before?
I have, yeah. And I was actually telling someone the other day, you know, that we have rehearsals coming up, and they're like, oh, who are you playing? And I go, Horatio in Hamlet. And they were kind of like surprised or taken aback. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think it was like, oh, but you're a woman. Like, you're playing a man's role, air quotes, in front of man's role. But yeah, I find pretty similar to Hannah that when I am playing a traditionally male role, I'm still like, I want to wear a dress and I want to just like be me, and not pretend to be somebody who I'm not, or maybe like pretend to identify as somebody who I don't identify with.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've never had to physically play a male, so I can't like identify with what you have had to do. But I've obviously like played a role where I'm identified with male pronouns. Yeah. And, you know, like that first rehearsal, you're like, oh, right. Okay. They're going to call me he, but I'm still just Camillo or Caliban or whatever. So I might be referred to as a he, but like I'm a girl. So that's the way it is. Yeah. But that just must be so strange to have to be like, but I don't walk like a man. So do I need to start doing that?
I'm now obsessed with the idea of doing a full Shakespeare production where we just use neutral pronouns.
Whoa.
I'm like, that would be so cool.
That would be interesting.
Cool. Like, just go ahead and give it a try. Because, we try not to change pronouns typically. I have done it for a couple roles, especially where I thought in the play we needed to hear she, her more than we were based on what Shakespeare had written. But it'd be so cool to just like, maybe we have to do that just as like a staged reading to begin with or something. Yeah. But it'd be so fascinating to take one of these plays where everyone has pronouns and just strip them out and see what it says to the listener, or see what it says to the audience member, to just hear it without any concept of, you know, forced concept of gender on the person. So yeah, I'm obsessed with that now. I'm going to pick a play and I'll let you know.
Don't do it.
Interesting.
But even like doing what we did, or I wasn't here with Flag Shakes yet, but doing what Flag Shakes did with The Tempest and like not doing a forward or a director's note. So it's like
Yeah.
The audience's attention isn't like immediately on that. It's just something that is like, oh, this is interesting. Oh,
I wonder
okay.
if they'd even notice.
Yeah, I wonder how long it would take them to notice.
Truly.
I found people at the end of Tempest actually saying like, oh, I kept forgetting that they were women playing men. And I'm like, that's okay. Like
Excellent.
you did, but they seemed kind of upset with themselves.
They were like, darn it, I thought I knew Tempest better than
I
that.
kept losing track of. And it was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I like too I don't think you need to abstract, gender wholly. Because I love using, just messing around with both my masculine and feminine sides. And I mean, who knows what those words even really mean, but I have a very vague concept of that. But for example, I cannot wait to play Theseus, you guys. I cannot wait because he's kind of a misogynist asshole. And I think for a lot of people and theater people that I've told I'm playing that role, they're like, huh, like I get gender swapping, but that's when I wouldn't have gender swap because he's misogynist. And I'm like, oh, but you don't understand. I'm about to bring so much because I've like been the victim of misogyny. You know what I mean? So I cannot wait to just like throw that into it.
Yeah, I feel like I know what it feels like.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but I think, the point you bring about it, like what does masculine side, what does feminine side mean? I think that's internal to every human.
True.
So it's whatever it feels to you. Like this feels like me being more masculine. This feels how I identify more feminine. And that doesn't have to be the same for everybody.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about how it's not as though we're talking about stripping. When we say stripping gender, it's not like stripping those two different energies. It's just stripping like certain labels that society's put on of defining them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
that's
I have to do
Is
the
that
thing
time?
again.
Oh no! How does it always happen?
I know. We're guys, the age-old Hannah sentence. We're almost out of time. But is there anything that you just want to leave with our audience, just about being a young woman in theater, or a dancer, or a songwriter, or something just you're excited about Hamlet, or anything you want to leave everyone out in the internet world with?
Oh, this is going to sound kind of cliche, but even 5 years ago, I never would have thought I would get to play Hamlet probably ever in my life. So ladies especially, I mean, all of you young actors, truly be yourself and discover what that is and what that means to you, and cherish the hell out of that, because that's what makes you special. That's what makes you castable. That is that little gem that you bring to every single role. And if you can really define what that is for yourself and continually be exploring it, that is going to take you far, and that's going to keep you passionate. And I think it's going to affect the most in your audiences too.
Yeah. And also a little tidbit of advice out there. If you're a really good human like Cadence, you'll get recast because we love you.
I love you guys
No,
too.
but seriously, really good advice. Just be yourself, be a good person, put your best foot forward, be a good friend, and be a good person in the room, and people will want to work with you. Obviously you're incredibly talented, but so much of it is also Cadence is going to come. She's going to bring it. And she's also someone that we can rely on, that makes us laugh, who we feel comfortable around, all those things. So yeah. We
Thanks,
just
dude.
love you.
I love you guys too.
We're so
Love you guys so
excited.
much.
I'm so excited to see you play Hamlet.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
I'm so excited that you wrote us our silly little ditty. Sometimes I just sing it while I'm recording, especially because I have to, or not recording, editing, because I just have to listen to it 1,000 times.
I bet. Yeah.
And it just gets stuck in my brains. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this month's 6th episode of Untamed Shrews. I know, 6 episodes, guys.
Yay.
Crazy town.
Half a dozen.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Dawn.
And I'm Becki, and join us next month for an episode with renowned Shakespeare director Jim Warren. Jim directed our production of Twelfth Night last December 2020 and is directing our upcoming summer 2021 repertory season of Hamlet and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Tickets at flagshakes.org, shameless plug. And we'll chat about founding Shakespeare companies, geek out together on why we love Shakespeare, and well, I'm scared for maybe even his love of sport.
Oh, no.
But we can't wait.
I heard Cadence say, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Jim's
sport.
always
He
wearing
loves
his jerseys.
It's so funny to me.
You can follow Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival on Instagram at FlagShakes and on Facebook at facebook.com/Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival. All episodes of Untamed Shrews can be found on sunsounds.org, the Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher.
Woo. This episode of Untamed Shrews starring Dawn Tucker, Becki Zaritsky, Hannah Fonts, and Cadence Lamb. Show art by Calliope Luedeker. Podcast theme song by Cadence Lamb. Podcast edited by me, Hannah Fonts. Special thanks to Gina Byars. Yay, Gina! Bye, guys. See you next week.
Bye.